We follow up now with the panel discussion that's devoted to business, business in exile, status quo, and the way forward. And we're really happy that we have our famous business representatives, Tatiana Marinich and Pavel Daneyko. We're also for Valery Tsipkalo. He will join us a bit later. So first of all, Tanya Marinich, she is the founder of Startup Hub Imaguru and also other business initiatives, including the portal Build Biz, a number of conferences devoted to startups, and programs for teenagers and other different initiatives. And she is a supporter of small and medium businesses in Belarus. And today, she is one of the most influential connectors in Eastern Europe for the startup and venture capital world. And Pavel Daneyko, he's administrative director of Berak, but he has many hats to wear, and he's in many initiatives to support businesses and the sphere of management, administration, the research and development in the Institute of Privatization Management, and also he's among the board of directors in many companies. So hello again. Danek, can you hear us well? Yes, I can hear you very well. Can continue. Yeah, especially when you enumerate all the posts. Yes, I'm really happy to have this expert discussion in terms of our situation of today, how businesses feel today, that is the status quo, how you as experts see it and analyze it. We can start with you, Tanya. Yes, we can do that. Thank you very much for this first question. Indeed, I believe the status quo is quite stable term, and I can see the situation is fluctuating. It has changed a lot in the last 2 years, and Belarus is going through several waves of relocation, especially as far as business relocation is concerned. And of course, the first wave of relocation was related to those threats received for the participation in protests. And then the second wave of the relocation, when businesses start to understand that it's very difficult to work in Belarus, and IT companies in the first place, and it's easier for them to relocate. And firstly, those who saw the opportunities to expand into international businesses, we had partners abroad, or contacts or orders abroad, and for the companies for which the relocation was less painful, so to speak. And especially the last wave, well, I believe it will be the last one in terms of time that we live in, that was after the start of war in Ukraine. And it's obvious that people as founders of companies and businesses against which the sanctions were established in Russia and Belarus as well, and for many companies it means that it's impossible to continue working in Belarus. And we can talk about that topic. What I can say is the situation has been changing for worse. More and more people are leaving Belarus, more and more companies are leaving. And these companies and business founders are confronted with other challenges abroad. And there are many issues there. If they move to Europe and they reside in Europe and they start their business from zero, it's difficult to start business. You have to invest human capital, financial capital, and you have to be brave because it's risky. And if you do it in new system, new ecosystem, then the situation is difficult both for those who remain and those who move to other countries. Thank you, Tatiana. Pavel, what you can add to that? I can say thank you to Tatiana, first of all, but the process of relocation, which is going on right now, it's not the first in Belarusian history. First wave started in the 1990s, and then in 2005, then 2014, 2020, and this one is the biggest wave, and we can single out like 3 layers of businesses which have been relocated. The first one is the sector of IT. But this is very simple. Big companies of offshore programming relocated, successful companies and startups. The first groups are successful. They can solve this problem quite easily. It's on the level of startups. But we know that the startup group was demolished in the Ukraine. They have problems in Lithuania and Estonia. These are problems related to the anti-Belarusian measures. Second group consists of real businesses. They're oriented to exports, and a small group of owners who are very roughly fought against in Belarus. High-tech group is the fastest to relocate, and the simpler the production, so more difficult to relocate it because it's related to relocation of the equipment and of course access to credit resources for the stable functioning of the company in a relocated country. And the last group is small business, the service groups, and the problem is also financing. They need microcredits and they need coaching, what the BRD was doing in the country. If that would happen, that could work. If we look at all businesses that are relocated, we can single out several layers. So let me tell everything what I know. Well, as a moderator, I suggest. Well, I learned from you very much. Well, that will be another lesson. So let me finish first. I have 2 pages here. Oh, you are reading, yes? Yes, of course I'm reading. Okay, continue reading if you like. So, of course, there is a target that you can reach with consulting, with special adaptation programs. And the second level is the creation of national associations in the countries where the businesses are working, to be included into existing associations and to have contacts and negotiations with the government. And third level, there are different forms of associations, clubs, or on the basis of traditional programs when business come together for, let's say, 4-hour discussions about their goals and so on. So, and this is the reformation of restructuring of businesses and so on. Now you can ask whatever you want. So, Valery Tsepkalo has joined us now. He is the former deputy of Minister of Foreign Affairs and the former ambassador of Belarus to the USA and director of Belarusian High Technology Park and presidential candidate in 2020. Hello, Valery. Valery, how are you? We're discussing now the first question of panel discussion of the current situation of businesses, the status quo, and what we can do for the future. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. Can you hear me well? I would like to reiterate about this classification mentioned by Pavel, because indeed, if we understand the groups of Belarusian businesses, we can understand also its needs. Of course, there are reasons of internal character, that is, when they are persecuted internally, or persecution of the leaders of these companies or the employees of the companies, which are taken as, prisoners, and when they really show their social activities and so on. So the regime actually puts them to prisons, and it gives or sends a signal very clearly that they need to stop their activities or stop their business completely in Belarus. Of course, we have businesses which are industrial, so it's much more difficult for them compared to technological businesses. And this is also can be divided into 2 categories. Number one, these are the industrial companies that produce spare parts for passenger cars, for instance, oriented towards the West. And I believe that even for them, it's very difficult to relocate, because here we have the equipment that it's not so easy to relocate. And there are many companies who work for the Russian market, and Russian-related other countries, related countries market. So, and they have somehow to adapt to those situations after 2020 and after the war in Ukraine, after the start of the war. And these businesses usually had their front offices, for instance, in the United States. And that was either due to the request of the orders, those who order, as they didn't want to have a separate contracts between American and Belarusian companies, due to possible conflicts in the future. And the service companies, they moved their front offices to the United States, to the European Union, and naturally big part of their management were present in those front offices. And then the investors, when they were financing the companies, they wanted to fund the companies with the head office in the countries like European Union, Great Britain, or the USA. So today the situation has changed because not only due to the political persecutions, but more because it was the request from the people who order those goods, in order also not to risk the detention and the imprisonment of their own employees, which might cost their own money in terms of millions of dollars. So this is in terms of safety, so that those offices are beyond the reach of Belarus regime and beyond the reach of Russian regime. And secondly, this is also about the image. And we understand that in Belarus the image is really bad, and the founders are not really happy about being in Belarus, or national companies like Bank of America or Coca-Cola. They really have understand high risks, and they don't want to be present in Belarus. They want to go out, and this process is ongoing. And of course, they try to save the trust and image. So we have two processes, that is relocation of the head offices and main employees and managers, and also the relocation of employees who don't want to be in that particular country and pay taxes. Because if pay taxes, you have to give something for it, which means participation in political processes, like, to execute your right to vote. So if the people don't want to vote in Belarus, they don't want to pay taxes, so they just take the decision to move to Poland, Lithuania, and so on. And if we talk about Germany, also there are many businesses who move to Germany, like senior people who are very serious in the business, and they receive very big orders, and they receive the blue card, the green card, whatever, if your salary is above the average. And this is an opportunity for relocation of mid-level and so on. Okay, thank you very much. You made this outsourcing business in quite great detail. But we also have, the startup companies that function in different situations. And we know that famous companies like One Soil, Wonder Dog, and so on, they've already left their offices in the country of origin. I'd like to ask Tanya how the situation has changed, especially after the start of the war in Ukraine, with these companies which relocated or had their offices before in foreign countries.
Yes, I would like to name a few types of problems that startups are facing. And I agree with Pavel that compared with big IT businesses, startups have troubles relocating, working, and searching for finances. I'll explain why, especially since the beginning of the war. First type of problems that startups face are, of course, questions of legalization. All of them face this issue. The situation that Belarusians have faced since the start of the war is difficulties getting visa, and once they cross the border and somehow find themselves in a different country, they face the questions of legalization, getting different permits, especially for family members, children, etc., insurances, and so on. So this whole spectrum, huge spectrum of questions. We held an interview questionnaire between startup founders, and these topics were among the priority ones. Unfortunately, many heads of startups, instead of focusing on business, now have to solve the issues of legalizing their status, family status, employee status in these countries. Secondly, high priority question is the topic of image. Image, of course, doesn't only cover startups, but Belarusians as a whole, who became victims of the actions of the regime and actions that we cannot really influence. So this negative image has affected all of us. Those Belarusians who are already in Europe, it's related to the fact that indeed many partners don't want to collaborate with Belarusian startups. Banks, as we know very well, hold many rounds of checks. We know many cases when bank accounts are being blocked of individuals, companies. And even if the bank accounts are restored, and once the check is performed, it turns out that company was doing everything fine, you understand what it means for a business to close down a bank account, to not have access to their finances, even for a day, even for an hour. It's extremely difficult. We know, unfortunately, these cases have become a regular occurrence when Belarusian startups, even in cases when companies have been registered in Europe but founders are Belarusians, so those companies are denied acceleration programs. In Poland specifically, we saw so many cases already. So this is the practice that I believe should be eliminated. And I see a huge demand for the unification of all democratic forces on changing the image of Belarusian companies abroad. Thirdly, it's an issue of access to finances. We know that Belarusian startups or any startups develop based on venture financing. Of course, at its very early stages, startups can develop a product using their own money, and it happens more often than not. But as soon as startup starts to grow, develop, if they have any kind of perspective of global growth, they raise venture money. And it might seem that when I talked about the first, second wave of relocation, it was interesting that this wave opened up new access to finances because our Belarusians could apply to European venture funds or other countries' funds. And there was a certain window of opportunities for them there to meet new investors. Unfortunately, since the beginning of war in Ukraine, these possibilities have been eliminated. Not a single European or American venture investor. And basically, venture industry today is going through a wave of decline in a way when investors are extremely careful when investing into new products, new startups. But if we talk about Belarusian startups, that's double the difficulty, double the challenge. When you have to prove why, despite the fact that you're a Belarusian, investors can trust you with money to develop products. So I believe those are top three issues that startups are facing today. And of course, we have a number of other issues which are very similar to other businesses. Problem of integration, the ecosystem issue, building internal ecosystem, society, language issue as well. Although most of Belarusian startups do speak English, but these kinds of challenges are characteristic of Belarusian startup communities. Thank you. Pavel, perhaps you have examples of more cases how the war has changed, how the situation has changed since the beginning of the war. Can you hear me now? Yeah. You know this joke that since the start of the war in Ukraine, Belarusians were granted a status of being in 1939 Germany, a Nazi and a Jew at the same time. You get beaten from all different sides. And it's basically a problem of communication. Thank you very much. So I would like to move on to measures of supporting business. Today, Pavel has named certain measures already, so I wanted to ask Tatiana and Valery, perhaps you have something to add. Tanya? Perhaps Valery? Okay. So the issues that we face, that technological companies face, are different but specific for this area. I don't know what Tatiana means when talking about startups. When we talk about PandaDoc or OneSoul, those are not really startups, but fully developed companies that have passed the initial stages of forming the product. They came to a serious monetization stage. So perhaps we can no longer qualify them as startups. So it's an issue of transforming them into a big, serious company. So it's becoming a huge issue for the management. You talked about visas already, so imagine relocating companies like quite the Poppy VA. Perhaps they moved to Georgia recently. It's a serious issue. But if we talk about solutions, about provision of help on relocation, we need to talk about the fact that from country to country, even within the EU, there are different approaches. And it all comes down to a specific country. If it's fairly easy in Poland, for example, an office of some of the companies were opened in Wrocław, it was easier to communicate with local authorities, they granted permits, and they tried to actively and quietly integrate Belarusian specialists into their network. In Germany, for example, it's more difficult, and I've touched upon that. So, unless you're the highest qualified specialist who earns the biggest money, you're not gonna get a permit to work there. Yes, this could be solved within a framework of immigration legislation. For example, if the whole team is being moved, so together with seniors, we also moved juniors who were not named initially, despite of the fact that their salary is going to be lower than the German average standard. So it could be a solution. For example, in Lithuania, what is happening? Lithuania is a small country, and when a lot of Belarusians end up there, many are saying, yes, do come in, but later they face migration legislation issues when Lithuanian authorities start facing problems when we talk about relocation of too many people. So perhaps there's no one recipe that we could offer on the topic. It comes down to companies that have to act on a case-to-case basis. But if we touch upon the help that we can offer, I believe we should focus on Belarusians who remain in the country. I want to voice one issue. You know that online banks, Online26, a German bank, Paysera, Lithuanian bank, they've closed an opportunity for the citizens of Belarus to use their accounts, and also for companies that have been founded by Belarusian nationals, unless they have a special visa, D-type visa, or a work permit. I believe that this is really, really bad, because a large number of companies and individuals from Belarus, we don't want everyone to leave. We want people, our country, to continue functioning. So, of course, sanctions have to touch upon Belarus, but they have to touch mainly people who support the regime, but not just simple Belarusians or businesses, especially that work towards exports. So what were the consequences? Well, all the money from Western clients could be circulated in offshore bank accounts. Now they go into Belarus fully. And taxes have been raised. You know that income tax has been raised, VAT has been raised. And in Belarus, basically, those Belarusians who could not pay those taxes are now being taxed. But in a situation of dictatorship, totalitarian regime, it's not just about the right not to pay taxes, it's about the obligation to pay taxes. So, you know how they say no taxation without representation, as American colonists used to say when they fought for representation in the British Parliament. Valery, could you please go back to specific measures of supporting businesses in exile? Or Tanya, maybe you? Yes, I can continue. I believe that measures of support should take root in problems that we've been voicing together here. And if we talk about number one problem that everyone agrees upon, the problem of legalization, on one hand, I agree with Valery, it's a difficult individual process which depends on a specific country. On the other hand, why don't we try to solve issues on a level that is most comfortable for Belarusians to ask, demand that Belarusian businessmen, so that Belarusians stop needing visas to go to European countries. So I talk about the elimination of Schengen visas for Belarusians at any event because I believe it's important to voice this idea to Europeans, to representatives of our democratic forces. And of course, it's extremely important when we talk about business. Businessmen, entrepreneurs who relocate, they're not going to ask for money. They will generate money. They will generate income themselves. They'll build businesses or continue developing businesses if they don't just relocate themselves, but the whole business. So those are the people who will bring benefits to the country where they develop their new business, and they'll bring benefits to Belarus in the long term. So it's relocation. It's a positive relocation. No risks of letting a person in. Person who pays taxes, generates income, gives jobs for both Europeans and Belarusians. I don't see any problems there whatsoever. I believe that this thought should be communicated widely. When I spoke to one of startups in the morning, and for months these guys are waiting their visa to Poland because they can't move to Poland in any other way. I think this is not a normal situation. Cancellation of visas to all Belarusians, especially those Belarusians who want to relocate their businesses, is of course unacceptable. So this is the first measure that depends mainly on Europe. Second measure, again, what are our painful spots? Well, finances. And here we have different types of business. Small businesses, startups, business that Valery has been talking about, big IT companies. Maybe doesn't really cover Valery too much, but everyone is losing money in some way right now. But let's imagine an entrepreneur. Not always a businessman can relocate. We've named cases when business cannot be relocated, but a businessman can build a similar business in a different country using their expertise, their knowledge, part of their team or the whole team. For example, Imaguru, we did not relocate all of our staff, but using our experience and that part of the team that could relocate, we basically started a business from scratch. And of course, in order to build a business from scratch, you need money. That's okay. And not everyone has the money. I'll share an example of a businessman from Vitebsk who was involved in restaurant business, had a successful restaurant in Vitebsk that, and of course for his political position, his restaurant was closed straight away, and he relocated to Ukraine before the war. Before the war, all the remaining money that he had following the relocation, he invested into opening a new restaurant in Ukraine. It was a very successful business story. We know that a lot of Belarusians have moved to Ukraine. This country became a point of gathering for Belarusians. So hundreds and hundreds. But since the start of the war, this businessman has lost everything. Completely everything. Now, how can we help this businessman? I am confident that he is able to open a new successful business, a new successful restaurant or a chain of restaurants in any country, Poland, Lithuania, etc. He would manage. He's proved that he can do it, but he needs the capital to do so. So it's a very important task to create infrastructure of financial support. It can be different, but later this infrastructure can be used as a model of developing new Belarus, supporting business within the country, supporting small business. We could use a development fund for startups, venture funds, etc., etc. And of course, we can talk about an institute of insurance guarantees. We talked about the issue of opening bank accounts. That's a problem that can be solved. But for me, basic points are A, just allow a person to move and legalize themselves and help them financially. All of these topics, issues are solvable when you collaborate. Collaborate with European Development Bank, European investment funds, organizations that we could cooperate with. We have the instruments and now we should have the will. And what Pavel has also named, I share his opinion. It's important to establish associations, communities of Belarusians abroad. It's important to integrate into local associations and continue studying, continue learning. We did a survey, and one of the key problems that relocated businesses have voiced was not the lack of finances, but the lack of access to local networks. And it's extremely important. So here I share the position. Those measures are really important. They have to be implemented when we develop a new infrastructure of businesses abroad. Thank you, Tanya. Before we move to questions from our participants, there is still one more topic I would like all of you to touch upon, all of our speakers. What are your forecasts for businesses in exile, businesses that remain in Belarus? What awaits them? What do you think?
What perspectives can be expected for businesses that remain in Belarus and for those who are in exile? Well, it's a future. There is a future for them, and they need to go for that future. Well, for all the people, for all of them. Tanem, and maybe you have some thoughts about it? Yes, I agree. You know, the business people have their own mentality. Very interesting, marvelous people. because in every situation they think about opportunities, they look for opportunities. And especially the Belarusian businessmen, because really they have this experience of overcoming the challenges, the difficulties, and there are no miraculous recipes. The only recipe is to go on working. I agree with that. You have to go on doing that business that you believe in, that is good for you, that is successful for you. And if you are strong enough, you can share your experience. This is most probably the only recipe to survive and to build the civil society around you. And perhaps for the people who remain in Belarus as well, it's the same, because inside of the country you have nobody to rely upon. And it would be really difficult to provide support inside Belarus. Some say it's even impossible. But I believe there are some ways of providing the support. But this is a different topic. Just continue doing what you do. Okay, Valeria, what are your prognosis and perspectives? Well, look, for the businesses which is abroad, is relocated, or is in the process of relocation, really, we have pointed out the problems, and as soon as they cope with these problems, everything will be okay. Because, well, firstly, I'm talking about technology business, because I understand if there is a specific business like restaurants, hospitality business, because you need the information about the capital and location, you need the premises and so on. But technological business, we have to understand that all those people who relocate, they intellectually have always been in a different market. They understand how this market works. And they understand how to relate themselves to the customers. They read relevant literature. So by changing the geography, they do not change their environment where they work. They have been there always. So this is a good perspective for them to be abroad. And as soon as they solve their legal problems, they'll be successful. And for Belarusian business, the perspective is quite pessimistic. And there are less and less foreign companies who would like to work with Belarusian business. They're also oriented towards Russia. Russia will go on selling its oil and gas. Will have funds coming back to them. And for Belarusian business inside the country would be an opportunity to work for Russia. And this is a one-sided dependence on Russia. And generally for Belarusian economy, it's most probably bad than good. And if Belarus is not successful in terms of its reputation, it'll be more associated with Russia as aggressor, it will be bad for Belarusian business. Okay, maybe there are comments or questions from the audience. Hello, I'm a correspondent of Deutsche Welle. We were talking about the civil society in exile and its relationship to Belarus, people in the country. Is there any relationship of businesses abroad with the businesses in Belarus? And second question, how Belarusian business in exile can remain Belarusian, because it can become more and more Lithuanian, Polish, German, and so on. And we know that if Belarusia will be a democratic country one day, a free country, Belarusian business will go back and become Belarusian again. What criteria we could use to define how much business is Belarusian? What kind of criteria you use in that, determining the business as Belarusian? Thank you. So the first question, how to maintain these contacts between the relocated business and businesses in Belarus. Who will be the first? Okay, I can start. Of course, there is a relationship. It is called people. We all have partners and friends in Belarus. We all understand and maintain the human contacts every day. Yes, today we cannot perform business operations in Belarus, but we understand what's going on inside the country. Perhaps it's not enough to have these channels. They're not public. Maybe they cannot be all public and so on. But it's important to maintain that human contact and to help each other. And today, most probably, this type of communication is in the field of mutual support. When the company people discuss certain things related to relocation or certain threats that can emerge. Well, I can tell you that not only Maguru, but also other companies that I had, I have over 20,000 businesses in my database, and most of them are still in Belarus. We periodically talk to those people. We provide questionnaires. We cannot publish all the data, but we are in contact anyway, because the opinion of such people is very important. What kind of problems they have, how they change, and how we can help. Perhaps you know, as an example, I can tell you about the initiative that we created right after the repressions in 2020. We started talking about those people and businesses which actually were damaged by the checks and penalties and detention of people and so on. So that was the first wave of communication which we maintain until now. Well, maybe you can answer the question about the European business. How Belarusian business can remain Belarusian in European business? Okay, ask me, please. Okay, I'm asking you. Okay, so what about Jewish business? Do you think that such business exists? Yes. So how do you determine that it's Jewish business? Yeah, in the relationship, a Jew to Jew relationship, when the head of the company is a Jew and he maintains the relationship with other company which is Jewish too. So if you're Belarusian and you maintain communication with other Belarusian businesses abroad, so then you are considered as Belarusian business. And now you can see awakening Belarusian business of the first and second and third wave of the relocation. The companies which existed in different countries and headed by Belarusian people who were hiding the fact that they were Belarusians, these companies today are presenting themselves as Belarusian companies. So I believe that this identification, self-identification, will remain, will become stronger if it is made on the same principles as Jewish business. If Belarusians will help other Belarusians to expand and maintain their business. Valery, maybe you can add something to the first two questions? Well, indeed, this is a very important question because Belarusians, of course, they are much more adaptive in cultural sense. Well, the Jews have cultural and religious specificities, and they remain Jewish very clearly, whether in Europe, Africa, and so on. Belarusians, on the contrary, they can integrate into society where they live. And even in different countries like Spain or Latin America or China, yes, we know there is Jewish business and Chinese business. Chinese businesses are interacting very closely in the United States, for instance, and Belarusians are very adaptive. And when I saw the experiment about Taiwan and Korea, Taiwan is a kind of Chinese environment in cultural and ethnic sense, and it's very much integrated with the United States of America. And they had very interesting programs in Korea and Taiwan, and they sent a lot of people to the United States to work there and study there, and in interesting companies. And 25% of those were coming back. And these 25% completely changed these countries in microelectronics and South Korea in car business and so on. And in fact, you cannot reach anything without having any negative things in the process. So believe that those Belarusians who will still feel themselves of Belarusians in the next 3 to 5 years, as we know that changes, of course, will take place in Belarus anyway. They're indispensable. And Belarus will open up finally. And we have to look into that perspective, because the people who are in Europe today, who are in the United States, they simply adapt their learning. They get the best experience, and that will be used for the better of our country. Thank you very much. We have more questions from the audience, but our time is up. Okay, maybe one more question from the audience. Well, I have a comment on the question. It was very interesting to hear about the results of the questionnaire, that the problem is in the access to networking and information. Well, I want to say that all of us have such programs. The Germans in Germany have such problems, and these are the problems which really open up when we find this access. Okay, thank you. And one question, please. Okay, there are no questions more, so we want to thank our experts very much. Thank you much for your participation. It was very nice and very interesting. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you. Now we continue, and we're happy to share with you about our study about the situation after the start of the war. Just a few words about Imaguru. This is a startup hub, pan-European startup hub that was born about 9 years ago in Belarus. In Belarus, we were one of the creators of the startup system, and we were engaged in the creation of a society to attract the talents with business ideas or thoughts about expanding the business. And he used to come to Imaguru, to our hub, where we created a special atmosphere with the help of different events and our teams. And with our help, we created more than 300 startups. And with the help of our programs of acceleration, we're developing the startups, and we're the first in Belarus who created the acceleration funds. And we are also investing into startups. And in Belarus, we focused on the business angels, which are the players in the business venture systems, and also our educational initiatives that grew into the network of business angels that also participated in financing of Belarusian startups. We also were developing the venture funds, and we were attracting international investors. We established conferences for startups and investors. However, our company, our hub in Minsk, was closed down in April 2021, and we continued our activities where the founders are, the founders of the startups in different countries, so that we could help them and continue with the development as a part of the European startup system. And as we were closed down in Minsk, we managed to create a system of free initiative and active people and establishers of innovative businesses. And together with that, every year we were doing the studies of the environment in order to understand how the venture ecosystems are growing and startup ecosystems. We were doing the questionnaires annually and creating the portals for ecosystems. And when the crisis started, firstly related to COVID, we also were measuring the situation in startups, and then a political crisis related to so-called elections in Belarus. And we also made this measurement. And 1 year after the election, we did the same in the startup system. And when the war started, we addressed the startup founders, how their situation changed right after the start of the war, and how we could help them. And some insights of the study are here now for us to share with you. And we are comparing the situation that was created right after the start of the war with the former crises. And today Imaguru has their hubs in Vilnius, we are present today, also Madrid in Spain, and very soon we're planning to open the hub in Warsaw. So shortly I will tell you how we are going to expand our industry.
So our indicators are growing, and based on the data of 2021, it would be interesting to compare what has happened in 2022. These are open data. Also, based on the results of 2021, education in the area of engineering and IT continued to grow. Would be great and interesting to compare it to results of 2022. Talking about startups in Belarus, I've voiced a number of companies today. Here on the slide you see companies that, based on the results of 2021, raised the largest number of investments, a few million. So I'll go back to this year a bit later. It was a record year for venture financing. PandaDoc, Flow, Masquerades campaign that is no longer active. It was bought by Facebook, and guys who created Masquerade are now creating a Luna startup. In the end of 2021, Pinterest announced that they're buying it. We also have OneSoil, Fice, and Verify, and others. Based on results of 2021, so a year since the beginning of political crisis in the country, a new wave of migration, a serious wave of relocation of startups from Belarus. We believe that before the war, 1 year following the crisis of Belarus, 58% of founders have moved. We see that this year, 2021, was the record year for developing startup ecosystem. It's worth saying that in Europe, any startup ecosystem felt a rise because overall venture market was developing, so we felt the benefits of it too. Overall, startups with Belarusian founders attracted more than $190 million of investment. Of course, the majority of those contracts were happening outside of Belarus. We had quite a few acquisitions And once again, we're showing you companies that managed to raise more than $1 million in 2021. Yes, we're talking about the ecosystem before the war, the results of 2021. And we believe it was important to draw a baseline for today in order to understand that startups that are leaving the country, they have new opportunities in European countries, talking about attracting investments, network, and useful contacts for their further development, where they can grow even more. Access to some unique knowledge which helps them to grow. So overall, the situation influenced the growth of a larger number of startups and attracting larger investments. As I said, the vast majority of startup founders felt that 2020 was the year when the red line was drawn, where they could no longer develop startups in a country like Belarus due to its political crisis. Many startup founders were on the front line of protests. Here you see the protest near the Park of High Technology. So biggest protests happened on 13th of August and October. And of course, solidarity of IT community and startup founders. For example, when PandaDoc employees were detained. And today we're talking about the fact that since the start of the war, we have faced the second wave of relocation. The first wave was right at the beginning of the crisis. Based on DevBuy data, talking about innovation community, IT community, the second wave touched a younger generation of professionals. Countries that characterized the second wave, of course, connected to the burden of visa issues. So Georgia as a whole is a country that has accepted this community first and foremost, but based on our interviews and research, startup founders are not going to choose Georgia for further development, because in order to have sustainable development they need a different ecosystem, connections, access to finances and knowledge, something that is available in the EU. How many have relocated? Well, based on 2021, we had 58% relocation. Before the start of the war, it was 78% of those who had relocated or were in the process of relocation. And of course, the process takes up a few months, getting visa or getting the documents. Since the start of the war, the process became even lengthier. So what countries are we talking about? Compared to two periods, it's perhaps clear when we talked about 1 year following the crisis. Ukraine was actually the country that welcomed quite a few founders and IT communities from Belarus. Right now, we talk about Georgia as one of the countries that has welcomed this community. We've also asked about the legal status of companies when they don't relocate themselves, but they were reorganized we can see that mostly here we talk about European countries. For us, it's an explanation that the EU gives more opportunities for startup founders, so this is why they try to relocate to Europe specifically. What opportunities have startup founders used in order to move to other countries? Startup Visa and Polish Business Harbor are the most famous opportunities that were offered. It's important to support them even further, to advocate them to Belarusian founders, to make the procedures even more open, faster. Tourist visas, of course, were something that helped people to make the decision on the spot. And I can say that our hub in Vilnius and in Madrid has felt straight away a wave of founders in its first few days following the beginning of the war. Those are people who had Schengen visas. They left the country straight away, came to us to continue making decisions from here. Humanitarian visas and visa-free regime became available for those founders and Belarusians who were forced to evacuate from Ukraine since the beginning of the war. Of course, we always try to find out, when talking to startups, how the crisis, any type of crisis that we see, influences them. And I can say that when we question startups following COVID, it was a minimal percent that we could technically expect. The so-called elections and the crisis that followed has negatively affected 72% of founders. But when we talk about the beginning of the war, then 93% of startup founders were affected by it. Here we have listed some of the companies that have already left Belarus. So Belarusian companies with Belarusian founders, but they don't have any connections with Belarus now. PandaDoc is an interesting case. It's a unicorn company. Just this year, at the end of last year, it was announced that PandaDoc is becoming a unicorn. Unicorn is a company that is valued at $1 billion. Many countries of the world are fighting for having in their portfolio unicorn companies. So PandaDoc was the first unicorn in exile. We talk about society in exile, business in exile, unicorn company that is not needed in Belarus today. The regime doesn't need it. And unfortunately, the situation, of course, is absurd. And in the worldwide startup community, it's been discussed in mass media, and PandaDoc has been named as the first unicorn in exile. Fibery, Wannabe, other companies that have publicly announced that they no longer have an office in Belarus. They don't have the structural connection. Word Gaming have closed their offices in Belarus. DeepD, one of the first company startups that have closed offices and publicly announced it. And Startup Watches, So we could go on with this list, and unfortunately, it's horrifying because many players of startup ecosystem have worked hard to have this ecosystem, to have these startups that would make our country famous on the international arena. They've created the success stories. They've encouraged other businessmen. So Belarus, of course, is losing points in its image department. But going back to the problems of the companies and leaders in exile, it's a good thing that we never lose these leaders. They continue to develop, they have access to unique expertise, they have experience of overcoming these challenges. And in our startup world, we have the saying, giving back culture, something that many founders share. Some stage when they bring back this knowledge and expertise to their country. And by doing so, they can encourage other businessmen and develop startup ecosystem for a new Belarus of the future. Some of the cases related to the war in Ukraine, based on our research, every fourth startup founder who has left Belarus after the war is basically someone who has to relocate twice. We've touched upon it today and said that Belarusians have relocated to Ukraine and then relocated again. So here you see Firma Stage company is one of promising startups, company that is developing well. So these guys have moved from Belarus to Ukraine in 2020. After the beginning of the war, they were forced to leave the Ukraine with their families and pregnant wives in some cases, and they ended up in Vilnius. They're based here. And despite this relocation stories, they participated in volunteer work and continue to work on their startups, make phone calls to their investors, partners, solve business issues, and continue developing. We have also asked startup founders about their experience of support and solidarity with Ukraine. Of course, the majority of them they were involved in projects, humanitarian volunteering work, charitable work, and employees of startups were involved too. One of solidarity projects you can see here, that's an international site I Can Help to Host, which popped up within a week since the beginning of the war. The self-regulating database where people could put in some property, shelter, where Ukrainians who move abroad could stay. Right now we have thousands of locations where Ukrainian refugees take shelter. We as a Maguro took part in it as well. We have success stories, friendship stories with families that have moved here to Vilnius or Warsaw and are now living with us. Talking about challenges colleagues, experts have touched upon it today. So number one is a negative perception of Belarus, Belarusian business, discrimination based on passport, nationality. So starting with startup visas and ending with bank account questions. Difficulties of getting documents, at least for half of the startups that were trying to relocate. Many have noted that getting a visa was very difficult. Getting legal status in a new country was very tricky. And of course, other issues which are related to taxes, insurance, and other questions alike. I also wanted to talk about interesting cases that we've come upon at Imaguru, because development of startup ecosystem cannot be fixed. We do depend on what is happening around us. Perhaps you've noticed a banner, Solidarity Hub. This is how we position ourselves. We see the solidarity from different points of view. Solidarity between startup founders, solidarity between civic society and startup founders to create more startups, but also solve social issues. We see that this is a tendency not just for our region but in the world, especially for after COVID. Venture investors thinking about financing not just successful financial startups, but also startups that create a positive impact on solving social issues. And for the future, it's going to be a big tendency. And we want to develop this community. We want to be this platform where IT founders and civic society can meet. We see solidarity between startups of Belarus and Ukraine and other European countries. Also today, if we talk about the startup ecosystem in Lithuania, we're dealing with legal entities registered in Lithuania. Doesn't matter who the founder is. When we talk about Belarusian startup ecosystem, we talk about Belarusian companies that could be registered in the UK, Italy, or anywhere else, but their founders are Belarusians.
Стартап-экосистемы.
And since the beginning of the war, this thing also applies to Ukrainian ecosystem. It becomes a part of emerging ecosystems across Europe now. So we don't want the founders to get lost, want them to focus on their talents, developing new companies, creating new jobs or preserving jobs. And their focus, their attention, you know that startups work 24/7. And we hope that this energy will be solely directed at developing new companies and not getting their documentation sorted.
После войны
we created a program, Startup Web. It's a pre-accelerator program. It's designed for startups at early stages that have just popped up. Normally they need help to develop and attract new clients. So here we could actually see what's happening in startup ecosystems here. So we had startups participating from different countries, and they all felt equal. So we had Lithuanian startups, Belarusian startups, Ukrainian, and other European countries, as well as the US. And so both North and South America too. So early stage startups are focused on healthcare, psychology, medicine, education, professional development. Those are industries that portray challenges of today's crisis. And of course, solidarity among mentors and startups that took part. Out of all cases, I'll talk about this case specifically. It's a Ukrainian startup, the Baby Club. These guys worked on a mobile app that helps women to overcome psychological mental issues related to the experience of motherhood. So girls who were developing the startup, it had female founders. On the first stage of developing this product, they were oriented towards their markets. Ukrainian market is fairly big. So for startups in Ukraine, it's a good practice to work for Ukrainian market first. So when the war started, they found themselves in a difficult position, and their task was to reorient towards the European market, and this was their request. And one of their biggest competitors was Flo, Belarusian startup. So they had a mentorship session, Flo and this company that worked on a single market. So when one of the founders of Flo shared really interesting insights on how girls could develop their startup, it was very useful. Unfortunately, I cannot share with you more examples right now. Also, I believe we're running out of time, and I would be happy to answer your questions during the coffee break. Thank you.